I have an intense phobia of costume mascots. I can't stand their frozen facial expressions. With their dead, permanently open eyes and mouths fixed in a permanent smile. I'm terrified by their eerie lack of speech, and they always look so big to a child. I remember having more traumatic memories of Disneyland than happy ones thanks to this. Just seeing a static picture of mascot Goofy or Mickey makes me sick to my stomach. I always wondered why so many other children were entertained by those monstrosities. After I got old enough to use the internet, I did research online and discovered that many other people share a similar phobia as a child. However, these people usually outgrew their fears with a little bit of therapy. Not me. I will always have a fear of costume mascots because of one incident. I remember when I was 8 years old, my parents told me that a new restaurant was opening downtown, and that they had a lot of the food that I liked. I was excited to hear this, and practically begged my parents to take me. They both agreed to do so. That weekend, my parents drove me down to the new restaurant. We got in, were given our seats, and sat down, preparing for some fun. I enjoyed the food. They had some of the best chicken strips I had ever tasted in my life. While my mom was eating her salad, and my dad was drinking his beer, they were both talking about plans to return to this restaurant in the future. All of a sudden, a female voice came out over the speakers.
Boys and girls, as a reward for being so patient, prepare to say hello to our best friend in the whole world, Lenny!
Happy, upbeat music played as a red door over in the corner opened, and out stepped a 7-foot-tall costume mascot that resembled a furry brown cartoon bear with buck teeth. He wore a tall, striped cap and a blue vest with a red bow tie. As soon as he appeared, I covered my eyes and buried my head in the tablecloth, praying for that thing to go away. "Marco," my mom said, "it's just a man in a suit." She said that every single time I was frightened by a mascot, and I always had a hard time believing her. If it was just a man in a suit, why did he look so much bigger than the grown-ups around him? And why didn't he speak up and show us he was just a man in a suit? I could hear children all over the restaurant laughing and cheering Lenny on as he continued to dance around. I soon felt his furry costume feet coming my direction, and in an instant I could feel furry plush paws kneading my back like cats do with blankets. I began to sob hysterically. "Go away!" I cried without even realizing it. My mom spoke up. "Excuse me, sir, but you're kind of scaring my son. Do you think you could go over there?" Lenny didn't listen to her. He began to place his hands on my head and gently rub my hair. I cried harder and harder. I could hear my dad standing up from his chair. "Sir, did you even hear my wife? She said beat it." I don't remember exactly what happened afterwards. All I remember was me sobbing and crying as my mom carried me out to the car. I remember my dad's vocal disappointment, complaining that we wouldn't be able to go there again thanks to my phobia ruining everything. I remember as he started the car, I continued to cry, as I was still terrified by what had happened. I remember my mom softly telling me that Lenny was gone and I had nothing to worry about. That night, I had a hard time sleeping. I still couldn't get the mental image of Lenny's creepy frozen face out of my head. Every time I suffered from insomnia, a movie would usually help me relax. So I turned on my DVD player and popped in Monsters, Inc. to get my mind off of that scene at the restaurant. I fell asleep, sometime after the part where Mike finds Sully playing hide and seek in the bathroom. I then remember waking up to two familiar-sounding music. I looked at my alarm clock, 11:30 p.m. Then I noticed a dark figure standing in front of my bed. I turned on my light and was horrified by what I saw. Lenny was leaning down right over me, staring at me with his unblinking eyes and permanent grin. As soon as I got a good look at him, he began to dance around my room with the music from the restaurant playing. I pulled the blanket over my head and screamed for my mom and dad. As soon as they arrived, I stuck my head out from under the blanket and noticed that Lenny was gone. I told them what had happened, and they said it must have been a nightmare. While the door was open, my cat Stella came in meowing. She leapt up onto my bed and lay down next to my head, purring. "There," said my dad. "Stella will keep you company." "Yeah," replied my mom. "She won't let any big scary Lennys come after you." They were right. I slept fine that night with my cat by my side. I completely forgot about Lenny until 2 nights later. That night, I remember laying down and closing my eyes, getting ready for some sleep. Then, that music started. I was scared to open my eyes, but I knew I had to look. So I did. Sure enough, I recognized the distinctive silhouette of Lenny dancing around my room. Once again, I screamed for my parents. Once again, as soon as they arrived, Lenny had disappeared. They offered to let me sleep with him that night, even though I knew, in the back of my mind, I was too old to sleep with my parents. I felt it was the best thing to do to get over these nightmares. A few minutes later, I was laying down snug between their huge blanket on their equally large bed, with Dad on my right and Mom on my left. As soon as my eyes were closed, though, I heard the music, that same upbeat music I had heard thrice beforehand. I lifted my head and saw that Mom and Dad heard it too. They were wide awake and blinking. "Honey?" my mom asked. "Do you hear that music?" My dad turned on the lamp on the bedside table. All three of us were equally shocked at the sight before us. Dancing around my parents' bedroom, with that upbeat music playing louder than ever, was Lenny. His frozen plastic eyes and teeth gleamed as he stared down at us. "What the hell do you think you're doing in here?" He stood up and grabbed a baseball bat he kept on his shelf just in case. As soon as he did this, Lenny turned and bolted out of the room, with my dad chasing him. Meanwhile, my mom grabbed the phone, which was on her side of the bed, and dialed the police. We both heard a big, loud crack come from the upstairs kitchen. We ran to check it out. As we arrived, I'll never forget the horrified, wide-eyed, and open-mouthed look on my dad's face as he stared down at the floor, bat in one hand. Down on the floor in front of him, there was no human body, no blood or anything. It was just an empty Lenny suit lying crumpled up on the kitchen floor. The police asked us a lot of questions, none of which we could answer. They took the Lenny suit away for investigation, and I never heard about it again. I have no idea whether the restaurant Lenny came from is still standing or not, as we moved to a different state 2 years later. One thing is for certain, though. I am much more terrified of costume mascots than I ever was before, which is saying a lot.